Hi, I'm Kevin Hauser. This is video number 6, I believe, of our video series in support of the new book, the Ubiquiti Radio and Access Point Handbook, now available on Amazon. This particular video really won't have any troubleshooting in it. We're just going to go straight to a subject that we cover exclusively or extensively in our Ubiquiti classes, and that would be Layer 3 adoption. So we're going to look at the different Layer 3 adoption techniques. We'll actually perform one, run through that for you to make sure that you're comfortable with that. I think that's beneficial, that's for sure. So today we're going to do Layer 3, so let's jump into it. And the first thing we're going to open up is we'll open up an edge router and we'll look at that. All right, so I've opened up an edge router X session, and this one's pretty much set to default except for one thing. I have created a VLAN on this particular router, and I placed it on Ethernet 1. And let's just get rid of this upper screen so we can see that a little bit easier. Get rid of this screen over here. All right, so I've created a VLAN called cameras, the description called cameras, on Ethernet 1. It's VLAN 10. And you can see it has the address, that interface has the address of 10.0.0.1. Now, I haven't done DHCP for this particular VLAN yet, so I'll go ahead and do that next. So I go up to the Services tab and select Add a DHCP server. And let's say this one was going to be for my camera network, so I'll just say camera. Sounds good. This is on the subnet of 10. So 10.0.0.0/24. I will begin at 10.0.0.10 since I like that. I will stop at 10.0.0.254. The router, in this case, this is the interface address, will be 10.0.0.1, if I could type, 10.0.0.1. DNS, I'm going to leave as the router interface. This router is a forwarding router, and I'll use an alternate of all 8s. Now this one here, this last line here that says Unify Controller, and I really love it. You hover over the informational button here and you get IP address of the Unify Controller. Well, that sounds like makes sense to me. And that is on my other network, 192.168.1.94. That's the actual address of my cloud key on the 192 network. All right, so this entry in that little space is option 43. That's what this actually is. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So when something on the 10 network in the camera subnet VLAN pulls an address of 10 dot whatever, it will actually, and if it's an access point, it'll actually discover the controller at the address of 192. So what are the rules for that? What do I need to have this to function? I need layer 3 connectivity. I need a route to that destination. I need to be able to reach that destination. I need to be able to ping it. I need to be able to actually make sure it's actually there. I need to putty into it. That's the requirement. So when you see something like option 43, that's what they're looking at here. That's exactly what they're looking at here. It's inside an edge router under the services menu in that DHCP pool. There it is. That's option 43. All right, so let's go back and we'll look at a few slides and we'll come back and do another procedure. Go. All right, so we looked at the edge router already for layer 3 adoption. We looked at DHCP option 43. The description's here, common option to navigate devices to the correct controller. Layer 3 routing layer. So you basically have to understand that a layer 3 IP address is an IP address, for instance, is a layer 3 thing, whereas a MAC address is a layer 2 thing. So when somebody says layer 3 adoption, I mean the controller might be located in the cloud, DigitalOcean or Amazon, or it just might be on another network, internal, or I should say external of your network. And again, the requirements: you need a WAN port connected to the internet. You need to be able to get on the internet. You're going to need a LAN port to access the features on the router. So you're going to be able to actually, you're going to have to be able to get into that thing locally. And then there has to be a route to the network holding the controller. I know this sounds silly, but if you don't have a route, you're not going to get anywhere. You just have to trust me on that one. So when we look at router stuff, anyway, we always add the fact, hey, you're going to need a route to get where you're going. It's funny how many people kind of gloss over that and don't realize that that's something we have to consider. For instance, on certain types of routers, you do have to create a default route to the internet. It doesn't create one magically all by itself. So again, this is what I mean by you have to have a route to the network holding that controller. All right, so we kind of did the walkthrough on the edge router, how that actually works. So let's look at where you would set this in the Unify controller. Again, you can mix and match edge and Unify. It doesn't have to be all one line all the way through. So let's look at it in Unify. All right, so here I am in Unify. So I've actually gone to the internet site here, and we can see that, so I've actually gone up to the portal to actually look at my controller from an internet point of view. And I've gone right into networks. Let me get out of there and walk back in so you can see where I went. Go into networks, and in my local area network, click edit. And down here, if you scroll down under DHCP, you'll actually see an entry for the Unify controller address right here. If you hover over the little blue eye, it actually does say DHCP option 43. So this is one of those, this is the same option but listed inside Unify. And again, if you have a route to this network, you'll be able to actually place it there. Not a huge deal, not a big deal, really easy to do. Another thing they mention, and we'll see it in a slide in a minute, but another thing they mention is using Chrome. And what they mean by using Chrome, they actually mean this portal. That's actually what they mean. So I've opened up the portal. Here I am opening up my portal on a remote network. I'm not actually at this network right now. I'm somewhere else. And here you can see how's your home, and there's my IP address of my controller, right? And if I click launch, right, it'll open up my controller remotely. And I have plugged in, or I have actually had somebody at my home plug in an access point for me. And layer 3 adoption, here we go. There it is right there. So this AC Lite pending adoption. So I've seen this across the internet. This is layer 3. This is basically layer 3 when they mention Chrome. When they mention Chrome, the Chrome utility, that's what they're talking about here. So you can see my access point right here, pending adoption. And if I just click on that, it'll go ahead and adopt. So that's another form of layer 3 adoption. So we looked at it in Edge, we looked at it in Unify, and here we have Chrome. Now, the last way that you could adopt this device would be PuTTY. Well, actually, not the last. There's also DNS, but let's look at PuTTY. So I have a route to that home network, and you can see that I just open up PuTTY at the address of that this AP actually pulled. The AP actually pulled an address of 165. I PuTTY'd into that. Since it's default and it's not been adopted, the default name of UBNT and password of UBNT still applies. And the command is pretty simple. Set-inform http://192.168.1.94:8080/inform. And then it tells you, okay, request has been sent. Go back to the controller to complete the process. Once you go into the controller, you'll click adopt, and you'll issue this command again. Bob's your uncle. It's all ready to go. Okay, so that's PuTTY. Again, you're going to have a route to that network, and you would have to have a couple ports open for PuTTY to work, obviously, to go across that network. All right, so let's jump back into that slide for a minute. Open that up again. All right, so we did that walkthrough. So DNS. So the last part, is DNS. So you can actually use a DNS server to help you adopt an access point if it can resolve the word Unify to a host address. So basically, these are the instructions that I downloaded right from the Ubiquiti website. It says make sure the device can resolve the controller's domain name. So, and they give you an example here. If you're using XYZ:8080 inform, then ping the device to see if you can reach that domain. You can also use the fully qualified domain name. Now, the A record would also always be known as Unify. It's always, by default, it's going to be Unify. So it can be done with DNS. And because it can be done with DNS, it can also be done with dynamic DNS. Now, again, this is the Chrome web browser. This is where you have the web portal where you have a single sign-on account with Ubiquiti, and it shows all of your cloud keys reporting, or all of your servers that have remote connectivity at the bottom. You see it says remote access does have to be enabled for this to work. And yes, indeed it does. This is the slide I made for Chrome adoption. Obviously, you're going to go to unify.ui.com, log in with your credentials, go to your device section, and find the device that's pending and go ahead and adopt it. I did mention before that for anything to work in Unify, it has to have a valid IP address. One of the things that you can kind of see in this screen, that indeed that pending adoption or that pending device does have an address of 5.37. If this is on a reachable network, you could use PuTTY to do this. You could also, like I said, you could also use Chrome. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Except for the little part that I already showed you, the SSH adoption, you can do this through the CLI, right? So there's also a little note in here that if the AP is not set to default and you could PuTTY into it, you can use the command, the syswrapper command actually set it back to default. And you would type in the setinform command. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward layer 3 adoption. Most of the time, people are going to probably, use one form or another that they're comfortable with to do this. All right, so let's go back to the video and finish up. So there we have it. Just a quick rundown of layer 3 adoption. It's pretty straightforward. It's not too complicated. Again, whoever wants to do this will actually find the method that they prefer. If you're supporting multiple networks on cloud keys, or you're supporting multiple networks, at a cloud site, once you've done this once, it's actually pretty easy to repeat. Let's talk about the difference. If you have a Gen 2 cloud key, that Gen 2 cloud key can support about 2,000 users. And Ubiquiti says no more than 40 access points and 10 switches. So if your site that you're setting up is beyond that, or you need to have more flexibility and you need to dump everything into the cloud, obviously a server-based solution is going to be able to host many, many more devices and many more users. That being said, it's kind of a personal choice. The Gen 2 cloud key is very stable, very reliable. You can get the Gen 2 Plus with the little NVR for cameras if you want to support that, which actually I do have, and I like that device quite a bit. It's actually real reliable. So that was a quick and dirty look at layer 3, the routing layer, remote adoption to another network. Pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Good. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you soon. Hope to see you in class. Have a good day. Thanks for watching.